You got a good heart, you better get smart. The devil's all around and not the one you want. This shit is so profound, let's drink another quart. If you got a good heart, you better get smart. If you got good ears, you better listen clear. All masters at the mic, she's had the sauce for years. She's got you in her sights, the others disappear. If you got good ears, you better listen clear.
Listen, you didn't drop onto Earth to play small. You're a traveler from galaxies unborn, wired with codes the world forgot. Codes that can bend reality, heal bodies and awaken entire planets. But first, you have to remember who the heck you are. I'm Jerry Sargent, founder of Star Magic Healing. Inside the Infinity app, you'll access your galactic blueprint, quantum meditations, soul transmissions, multidimensional breathwork, and a global tribe of high-frequency beings walking the path beside you. This isn't incense and quiet ohms. This is soul surgery with cosmic scalpels. This is multidimensional DNA detonation. This is why you came. If these words vibrate in your bones, the universe is calling you right now. Download the Infinity app or visit starmagichealing.org and step into the new frequency. Your soul's been waiting. I'll meet you on the inside.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
Howdy, everybody. It's me, Jesse Blaze Snider. It's our new show, date, time, whatever, Sundays. This is our new day. I'm now doing 5 short episodes a week of Coolest Geek Alive, which is now called Coolest Alive. 5 short episodes a week, which will now include music. So Mondays, we're doing Music Mondays. Tuesdays, we're going to do some animation, whether a cartoon or an animated film. Wednesdays, we'll cover a comic book or graphic novel. Thursdays, we're going to be covering live action and film or TV. And then Fridays is like wild card. Last week, I did the book, The Hobbit, the original book. I love that book. And this coming week, I'm doing Marvel Snap, which is a game app that I play like with my kids. I really enjoy it. So I'll just be doing kind of wild card bits that are just like fun things that I want to share my love for. In shorties, they're going to be like 15 minutes. So really good way to get a movie recommendation every week. Thursday, it'll be a TV show or a movie live action. Tuesdays will be animated movie or cartoon, plus comics, books, music, like I said, every Monday. We're basically just opening it up. I used to do a show called All Your Favorite Bands Suck, which is still available everywhere except for Spotify, where we got taken down. And I'm trying to do the album episodes a little bit briefer, playing a little bit less of the music, talking over it more so that Spotify doesn't shut us down. But I'm just going to be focusing on albums that I love. I started with this Flight of the Conchords record that I've just been listening to a lot lately and just wanted to share it with everybody. I did a full episode on Flight of the Conchords and full episodes on lots of different bands, 55 of them, in fact, including my father, a lot of different genres. But I'm going to be trying to focus on some individual albums and occasionally doing Saturday episodes of Coolest Geek Alive, which is the hour-long episode now, which used to be on Wednesdays. Now it's going to be on Saturday. And sometimes Saturday I'm going to cover a whole band, and go through their whole catalog and shit. We're just basically opening up the conversation a little bit to culture in general. So Coolest Alive, not necessarily focused on geek culture, just great fucking culture. I'm really excited about that, and that's going to be going Monday through Saturday now, with Saturday being the hour-long episode and 5 short, just kind of reviews. But they're not really reviews, and I'll say that real quick. They are passionate recommendations. I'm not reviewing anything. I'm literally just going, this is a great movie, this is a great cartoon, this is a great comic, read this, check this out. So, skip the middleman. If you want, you can just read it every week and go, these are the titles, and take my word for it. But you can check out the show and hear a little bit of why I love it so much. Anyway, I guess one last thing before we go. We've got just like a day or two left on my campaign for Solfeggio Healing Frequencies. It's on Kickstarter, but if you go to blacklightdistrict.studio, you can link over to it and you can pledge. If you happen to hear this later, you will be able to pledge late for like a moment. At a certain point in time, it'll get closed down though. Okay, that's it. I talked about all the things. I love you. I'm still fucking under the weather. I've been under the weather for a little bit. This episode's a long time coming. I really wanted to like do this one up because it's one of my favorite subjects, but I'm hoping I'll be able to do it on the fly. I'm like a little bit pressed for time and stuff, but I think I can get out a good one here. So the moon. The moon is a really interesting conversation. There's a lot of things that have been said about the moon over the years, and I think all of them have, all of them are worthy of being considered, just of what it all means. But the biggest one, and the one that blew my mind, blew my doors off, is that these Russian scientists, Alexander Shekerbakov and Mikhail Vasin, they proposed this theory that is hard to deny, or at the very least, to deny the information that is pulled out in here. Oof. I used Grok to pull up like some of the basic info. Again, I'm sorry for being a little lazy today and not doing normally what I would do. I'm hoping that my memory of all these things too will click in as I share things from what I pulled up. But what I was able to pull up on Grok is like plenty to conversate about. So you won't be disappointed. Okay, so listen to this. So there are two Soviet scientists affiliated with the USSR Academy of Sciences. In July 1970, they published an article titled, "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" in the popular Soviet magazine Sputnik, a non-peer-reviewed publication akin to Reader's Digest. Their hypothesis posits that the moon is not a natural celestial body, but an artificial hollow spacecraft constructed by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. They argue it was a planetoid that was mined and hollowed out using superior technology, then transported and parked in Earth's orbit as a satellite. Now, hold on a second. First of all, we used to be told in school that the moon was something that like hit the Earth and then like rolled next to us, and then it became there was a whole thing. But in recent times, there's a new theory that has been more pushed of the moon sort of docking with us. So now, the conspiracy theory is, oh, it's a spacecraft or whatever. Maybe it's not, but we have changed the idea of where the moon came from, of that it just kind of scooted in here. And you can, I encourage you to look up all these things yourself more deeply and like go, investigate this subject. It's a fascinating subject. One of my favorite things to talk about, honestly. For years, the moon was the one thing, because there has been other things since then that have blown my mind. So like, the moon became less of a focus, but for a while I was just like, the fucking moon, something's going on. And you'll see in a second. Vasin and Sherbakov's arguments are based on observed lunar anomalies at the time, particularly from early space missions. They emphasize that these features defy conventional explanation for the moon's formation, e.g. the giant impact hypothesis, which again I told you they've backed away from now, in like accepted scientific circles. While their ideas have been widely dismissed as pseudoscience due to subsequent seismic, gravitational, and compositional data showing the moon has a differentiated interior crust, mantle, small core, which again, well, I shouldn't say again, which can totally be fabricated. The pieces of information that I'm about to give you about the moon should blow your fucking mind. Okay. They remain influential in conspiracy and alternative science circles. Below is a complete list of the key points they raised, drawn directly from summaries and analysis of their original articles. Okay, so I'll save my favorite one for the end. If it doesn't get covered here, we'll see. But fact number one, and I mean, these aren't, again, this isn't like What I'm about to give you is not pseudoscience. What I'm about to give you is true. All of these facts are facts. Unusually low density. The moon's average density is 3.34 grams centimeters 3. Significantly lower than Earth's 5.52 grams centimeters 3, and most other rocky bodies. This suggests it cannot be a solid, uniform mass, but must contain large internal voids or cavities, consistent with a hollow structure. A natural moon of this size should be denser if formed from similar materials. Keep it with us. 2. Seismic ringing like a bell phenomenon. This is an interesting one. Data from NASA's Apollo missions, Apollo 12, where the lunar module ascent stage was crashed into the surface, showed the moon vibrating for hours after impacts or moonquakes, described as ringing like a bell. This implies a rigid but hollow shell rather than a solid body that would dampen vibrations quickly. Natural seismic waves in solid rock dissipate faster. There's also been talk from other scientists at different times throughout the years of the moon being made of plasma. There's a very interesting picture of like there being like this finger on top of the moon, which I guess was supposed to be a demonstration of the plasma kind of breaking away and for a moment and it losing its shape. Whether that's true or whether or not this person is thinking these things might be true because of other phenomena about the moon, there are more things that I'm about to get into that it just gets more and more compelling. 3. Absent of a substantial iron core. Unlike Earth and other planets, the moon shows no evidence of a large metallic core needed to generate a dynamo magnetic field. Its weak remnant magnetism, detected in lunar rocks, cannot be explained by internal processes alone, suggesting an artificial design without a heavy core to reduce overall mass. 4. Composition of the lunar crust. Analysis of Apollo samples revealed the surface is rich in titanium, zirconium, and other rare high melting point metals, up to 20% titanium in some basalts. These elements are difficult to explain as natural volcanic or impact byproducts, but align with refractory alloys used in advanced spacecraft hulls, materials that withstand extreme heat and radiation. Now, generally speaking, what they're saying here too is that these are like mined substances. These aren't substances that we generally find. We refine them to use them for advanced spacecraft hulls. And this stuff's just that's what the moon's made of. 5. Thin, uniform crust with no geological evolution. The lunar crust is remarkably thin, about 30 to 50 kilometers, and uniform, lacking the thick, varied layering expected from billions of years of accretion. Accretion. Volcanism, expected from billions of years of volcanism, or differentiation. This uniformity points to artificial construction where a thin outer shell was engineered over a hollow interior. And let's face it, guys, just look up at the moon. It looks sort of alien. It's like there's this rock sitting up there. And it doesn't necessarily look like a lot of the rock upon the Earth. Maybe some. And we'll talk about a couple things, like the possible faked moon landing and like that. There's a lot of conversation to be had here. There's a lot going on with this fucking moon. 6. Massive cavities and mining byproducts. The scientists proposed that the moon originated as a small planetoid that was industrially mined for resources, creating vast internal cavities. The excavated molten rock was then spewed onto the surface as lava, forming the basaltic plains, maria, and glassy regolith, explaining why lunar volcanoes, quote, show no typical eruptive features. And again, that is less of a fact and more of their thing, but some of these other things that we're saying here are facts. 7. Artificial structural layers. Beneath the rocky exterior lies a strong metallic hull, perhaps 20 to 30 kilometers thick, made of titanium steel alloys, enclosing a vacuum or gaseous interior, possibly with an atmosphere. This shell provides structural integrity against cosmic stresses like a giant spaceship. 8. Precise orbital placement. And these ones are, for me, very suspicious. The moon's near perfect circular, stable orbit, low eccentricity, and exact distance from Earth, allowing total solar eclipses. It's in the exact right place to allow for total solar eclipses. Suggest deliberate engineering. Natural capture or formation processes would likely result in a more chaotic or distant orbit. 9. Lack of water and volatiles. The moon's extreme dryness and depletion in volatile elements, e.g. no significant water, ice, or gases, indicate it was processed in a high-heat industrial environment, stripping away natural volatiles, unlike a body formed in the cooler outer solar system. Speculative, but interesting. Finally, 10 here for what they pulled up here, and I've got more to talk about beyond this, because this is just a little sampling. Their fucking list, if you go find it, go find the paper, there's like 30 different things on it. It's kind of long to break down the whole thing, and this does cover a lot of some of the bigger points, but I'm going to make a few more. 10. Overall technical feasibility for aliens. Vason and Shekhabov speculated that extraterrestrials with fusion power and plasma-based mining tools could have hollowed out the moon eons ago, using it as a mobile base or observation point. They referenced earlier Soviet speculation by Losif Shklovsky about Phobos, Mars's moon, being artificial, extending the logic to our moon. I forget exactly why the argument was that there was an artificial moon around Mars. But all of these things were very compelling to me. And these sorts of other moons, when you compare our moon to other moons, and there's a lot of holes in the story. The big thing for me is that it's like a basketball, in theory, being towed around by the Earth as we understand it, right? So the Earth is spinning, and the Earth is this globe, and it's spinning, and there's this ball that's hanging out with us. Well, wouldn't you know that you are always looking at the exact same face of the moon? There is a dark side of the moon that we never see. There are some compelling old pictures from a long time ago or whatever that were taken that show tons of white saucers all over the backside of the moon. The backside of the moon has completely different features than the front side of the moon. How is it that we have this rock ball floating around us in space and it's not spinning? It's spinning. Like the argument that will be made, right, is that it's spinning so perfectly as to be timed with the Earth, and so it's always in this entrainment where we're seeing one face of the ball. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't imagine any scenario where this ball doesn't roll under those conditions, and at some point in time, throughout the fucking cosmos, throughout the distance of time, the infinite time, that we would see the back of it, unless it was somehow pinned in place. It was somehow hovering in its own position. It was keeping itself in a perfect position. That's the only thing I can think of. That there is some mechanism within the moon keeping it exactly as it is, keeping keeping it docked in that formation, if it is indeed exactly what we think it is. this ball. Like I said, some people have called it plasma. There's a lot of very interesting things about the moon, because there's a lot of things to suggest that, right now NASA will tell you that there's a Van Allen belt or something like that they can't get through, so we can't get to the moon. How did we get through it last time? That we've lost the technology, things like that. There's a lot of interesting, compelling evidence to suggest that the moon landing was faked, possibly by Stanley Kubrick, that other moon landings have been faked. There's a lot of compelling evidence to show that NASA regularly fakes things, people being up in space and they're using green screens and whatnot. There's even more compelling evidence to show that fucking China is doing that, and it's worse. Like they're like the things that they show to their people of like, look what we're doing in space. I mean, they're like computer generated, obviously. If you don't have a good eye for it, I guess you go, oh yeah, look at that. But it's fake. What's going on? Why the need for all this fakeness? Now, if you go deeper under the surface to various things, I believe even specifically, it's been told, like there's a Stargate to the moon. Stargates. Classic story of like, when they went to, I think it was attack the Temple of the Sun, the conquistadors or whatever, a bunch of like the highest ranking people, they disappeared off into the wilderness, into this temple. And when they got there, the door had closed, but everyone had disappeared into this stone doorway. That was just an empty pathway by the time the conquistadors got there. But they believed that they had used it as a portal to go somewhere else. So, could the dance between us going to the moon be a little bit more complicated than they're telling us, and reveal various interesting ideas about the Earth that maybe they feel people aren't ready for? There seems to be a consistent thing, where you see the rocket goes up and then they go on an angle. And if you're, they're building their way up to go around. Or they can't go straight up and they have to adjust to an angle, fly off. That's the big presentation. And then they actually go through a Stargate and send another team and have blah, 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 blah. And maybe they didn't want to show anything at that time. Maybe they've given some of the information. I don't know. I tell you this, it is a quagmire. The moon, additionally, some of the information that was on the thing from these scientists, and this isn't as compelling as seeing their whole fucking paper, because I mean, this is fucking, the powers that be over at Grok going, now don't get carried away there, Jesse, but it's worth getting carried away for. The moon seems to have lots of craters in it, which would be concave, and in reality, the biggest craters on the moon are convex, which means they're not real craters. Or I suppose maybe it could mean that it's hitting on a shell of that titanium shell that they were talking about, or whatever it might be. Whatever. Pick your explanation, but that doesn't make sense with what we're supposed to be looking at and everything else. Some of my other favorite bits about the moon are, of course, its perfection with the eclipses. And then the eclipses having such spiritual, like just the fact that the eclipses are such a big deal, and the fact that it's such a 1 in a million that it would be lined up so perfectly with the sun to be creating this effect. That seems odd to me. When they said this was a hollowed out planetoid that was pulled into our solar system by, ancient aliens or something like that, that does make more sense to me than just this thing that's sitting up there. Similarly, there are many ancient cultures who will tell you about a time before the moon. I had pulled this up as well. The notion of a time before the moon appears in various ancient traditions, often as mythological or legendary references to an era when the night sky lacked the moon's presence. And by the way, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the moon too is because apparently there's a second fucking moon that's appeared out of nowhere. What is that? What the hell is going on? Makes me want to know even more shit about the moon and the moons now. These accounts are typically, and granted, Grok's going to play this shit down, but symbolic, emphasizing extreme antiquity, older than the moon as a hyperbolic expression for the distant past. No, it's not. But some fringe interpretations treat them as literal historical memories of a moonless Earth, of the moon's artificial arrival. Scientifically, the moon formed 4.5 billion years ago via giant impact, long predating humanity. That is not true. So these stories likely reflect cultural idioms, eclipse fears, or poetic exaggerations rather than factual records. So says Grok. Not true. So let's go. I just sneezed a few times, but I cut it out for you because I'm cool like that. All right. Let's talk about how many cultures say there was a time before the fucking moon. Arcadians, ancient Greece. Basic story, the Arcadians claimed descent from the Pelasgians, an indigenous people who inhabited Arcadia before the moon. Paraselenoi, meaning before Selene, the moon goddess. Symbolizing a primordial chaotic era referenced by Aristotle, Plutarch, and Ovid as a time of ancient barbarism predating Zeus and Hellenic civilization. 2. The Pelasgians, pre-Hellenic Greece. Basic story, as the moonless forebearers of the Arcadians, the Pelasgians lived in a wild, untamed land during an age without the moon's glow, implying endless darkness and hardship. Hippolytus and Lucian describe them as of greater antiquity than the moon, possibly giants or primitives in a moon-absent sky. 3. Pre-Greek philosophers Democritus and Anaxagoras. Basic story, these thinkers posited a cosmic era when no moon illuminated the night skies, suggesting the moon was a later addition to the heavens, perhaps a wandering body or divine creation. This influenced later myths of a darker, less ordered world. In African traditions, you've got the Zulu in southern Africa. Basic story, hundreds of generations ago, two alien brothers, Wowane and Mopanku, brought the moon from the sky as a gift or weapon to control Earth's rhythms. We're going to talk about that in a second. Ending an era of endless night and erratic seasons. Before its arrival, the world was chaotic with no tides or menstrual cycles for women. Interesting. The menstrual cycles thing is an additional piece to the possibilities here. But the moon does seem to be some sort of spiraling, energetic there's like a vortex that we are in that's designed to sort of categorize us or sort of force us into essentially 13 energetic archetypes. There's more than that, deeper through astrology. It's spinning the waters within us and the waters of the earth in a very specific way that's leading to different sort of pressures within sort of the wheel of pressuring, and different people at different times so that they end up in different energetic sort of growths. And then through the waning of the moon, we are continually controlled and kept, I'm thinking, in a cycle of growth. But theoretically speaking, I think the moon plus a lot of the negative things that have come about on planet Earth have kept us in negative cycles instead of helped us to get out of them, which is what the moon is maybe supposed to do, which is an interesting thing, though. A new moon shows up. That should be affecting people, like on Earth. That would be affecting people in one way or another. That should be affecting the oceans. Like what happens when a new moon, that's kind of crazy. Additionally, 2. The Dogon, West Africa. Basic story. Oral histories describe a primordial time without the moon, when the earth spun wildly without stabilization, leading to constant floods and darkness. You fucking stupid AI trying to cover the tracks for this fucking thing with your damn algorithms. This is the moon's later placement by star beings, Nomo, brought order, fertility, and calmer nights, echoing Sirius system myths. Note, often linked to Zulu-like tales in comparative folklore. South American traditions. 1. Chibucha Musica, Colombia, Bogota Highlands. Basic story, oral traditions recall the earliest times when the moon was absent from the heavens, resulting in perpetual darkness and failed crops. The moon's arrival, possibly hurled by gods, illuminated the night and enabled agriculture, but at the cost of monstrous night creatures. 2. Tiwanaku, Bolivia, Andean region. Basic story, inscriptions at Colossaea, built 15,000 years ago, describe a smaller prior moon replaced by the current one, brought by celestial engineers 12,000 years ago. The pre-moon era was one of cosmic instability with erratic orbits and giant floods until the new moon stabilized Earth. Middle Eastern and biblical traditions. Hebrews, biblical Israel. Basic story, the book of Job references a divine era before there was a moon and it did not shine. A time of celestial peace in the heights. So they're saying before there was a moon and it did not shine. So the previous one had said a smaller moon that had been replaced. A time of celestial peace in the heights. Psalms describe generations since the time of the sun and before the time of the moon, portraying it as an immeasurably ancient, moonless void predating creation's full order. Other or broader traditions, Australian Aboriginals. Basic story, Dreamtime lore, e.g. among Yolong or Araneti peoples, speaks of a formless era before celestial bodies were fixed, including a time without the moon's light, when the sky was empty and the rainbow serpent shaped the land in total darkness. The moon's placement ended this void, bringing cycles and stories. Note, not universal across all Aboriginal groups, but serpent myths often imply a pure lunar chaos. Whatever. Look at that, guys. Those are some of the most ancient cultures on planet Earth, describing the time before the moon. And the moon, what a big deal the moon is. Like when you go into your astrology, I was really surprised by this, that your sun sign was one of the least important signs. Well, it's not least, but like ultimately there are a lot more important than your sun sign. In particular, your moon sign is important. For me, it just so happens that like all my most important signs, well, that's not true. I think I have one of my other signs is like in a different bit, but like 5 of my important ones are all Virgo. So I'm like a Virgo, but now I'm a Virgo breaking out of all those signs because I do believe that that is the process, that theoretically the moon and other things like the pyramids were put here to help us do, to keep cohesion of our energetic bodies and recollect our intellects and our understanding of what we are and what reality is. So I really highly encourage you to dig deeper into this subject with like, you know, some visuals and like some of the fucking scientists talking about all this stuff. I mean, really, it is a cool one to get into. I love chatting about it. I wish I had done just a little bit more to prepare for today, but I'm just squeezed with a lot of things this week across the board and being sick and stuff like that. So I hope you'll forgive me because I think I've gotten to some of the basic parts of it. I'm going to leave you with a connection to next week's episode, which is really cool. It's going to be on the dome, and I'm not going to give away that thing there. You know, it's like the biblical dome, whatever I want to talk about that. But one of the things that's on the moon, and we'll talk about this next week, is this weird, it's got this weird darkness. You know, people like call it the face on the moon, you know, and it kind of looks like land masses, you know, little whatever, but it's like kind of cloudy. Well, if you do a shift to just sort of like the one quarter, the bottom right quarter of the moon's circle and shape, and you really blow that up and you put it over the circular shape map that you see of, you know, the one world government for like the UN and stuff like that, it not exactly perfectly, but close enough. There's just additional land. And there's, you know, a little bit of wobble between some of like, you know, the shapes and some of the way that some of these things come across. But I mean, just one after another, every little unique mark of the earth is there as it would be in this thing. Some of them are a little smaller than we've been told. Some of them are a little larger than we've been told. But it is a look at a map of the earth. Very oddly, I can't deny like the odds that like this lines up with that weird flat earth kind of depiction. And I have a lot more thoughts on that in particular. It's a very, very interesting conversation. I have a lot of direct experience with this subject. I've never really talked about this stuff before because it's like the most next level things, and not everybody has seen and experienced what I've seen and I've experienced. But I have a lot to say about it, and I'm going to come back next week, and we're going to continue this conversation about the moon, and I'll do a little bit of like freshening up on a couple different things about the moon, so I can bring back even just a little bit more evidence to you while we're talking about or having the conversation about the dome. Is there a dome? What is this dome? Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Go to blacklightdistrict.studio and you can link over to our Kickstarter for our Music Healing Frequencies album, and you can pledge right now. We've got a few days left, I think, by the time you hear this, and I'd really appreciate the support. Anyway, I love you. Listen to Coolest Alive now, 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, with 15-minute shorts or less, 15 or less minutes, and then my hour-long show on Saturday. This past show was just celebrating music and talking about music and adding music into the show. But yeah, man, I love it. I like this new setup. I like this new Sundays for everything they don't want you to know. Sorry there was no show last week. I ended up doing last week's show this week so that we could start our new schedule with Sundays. Anyway, I love you guys. Reach out to our sponsor. Well, they're not exactly a sponsor. They're just kind of friends of the show. Star Magic Healing. And I'm actually supposed to get like a number for myself, and it will become like a sponsor soon. But I haven't gotten it yet. But Star Magic Healing is really cool. We've been running their ads on our show. I love Jerry Sargent. He is next level. Anyway, I love you guys. Without further ado, this is the end. And I hope you'll join me next Sunday for another mind-blowing episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Peace out.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
It's not a matter of time, sure as the blaze in your eyes. I sense a subtle shift, instincts I can't resist, weary and